Hello everybody, this is Kay, and welcome back to my channel, Junking with Gigi. In my first few videos that I put here on YouTube, I had collaged some boards and made some tags and insert cards for these little albums that I had made. And one of my newer subscribers has asked me to show a little tutorial on how to make the actual album, because I had already had these made and just wanted to make the cards and stuff for it. So I'm going to do that today. It's a really quick and easy, simple little project. So all you need to make these little albums is a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock. And I've got a couple that I'm going to do on camera today here. That I got these out of this paper pack by the Paper Studio called Evergreen Cottage. It's a really, really pretty kind of Christmassy paper pack. And some of the papers are on craft cardstock, so the back is already a color, not just plain white. And I chose two of those on the cardstock to do these albums in today. So the first thing you're going to do is simply cut these in half. And so on this one, well, on both of them actually, since they're pretty directional, I'm going to want to cut it this way so that when I put my album together, the words or the pictures are not upside down. So I'm going to grab my cutter here, a little Fiskars cutter. I've had this thing for years. It's a great cutter. I love this thing. Just have to replace the blade every once in a while. But so I want to cut it halfway this direction. So I'm going to turn it like this. My blade falls out sometimes, but that's okay. I'm going to line it up at the 6-inch mark since this is a 12 by 12 piece of paper. And simply cut it in half. Okay. Put that aside. And now I'm going to grab my scoreboard. So for each of these halves now, I want to score, I'll do them separately, at 1.5, 6, and 10.5, which is basically 1.5 inches in from each side and in the middle. Score the other half. 1.5, 6, and 10.5. And if you don't have a scoreboard, you can still do this. Just measure in 1.5 inches on each side and in the middle at 6 inches. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside. And then so you have these two halves that are scored. And what you're going to do is turn them this way and fold them in half. And then fold these 1.5 inch flaps over. Like that. That on both pieces. Okay. Now on my other ones that I did, I rounded these corners. You certainly don't have to do that, but I kind of like the look of that. So I'm going to get my corner rounder out here. I'm going to round all 4 corners of both of these pieces. Okay, so we have all 4 corners rounded. We've got them folded. And next, and we don't want that upside down, we're just going to put these together. So to put these together, you just line them up, one on top of the other, and making sure that if it's a directional piece of paper, that it's going the right direction. Another thing you can do to make these folds a little crisper is take a bone folder or the handles of a pair of scissors or anything like that, or your thumb if you don't have any tool like this, and just kind of make those creases a little bit crisper. Now we can glue this together, and you can certainly sew this if you want. I just found it easier to glue on this particular part because you're going to glue here and here on the edges to make a pocket here, here and here to make a pocket there. Now on my other ones, I left, actually what you're going to do, sorry, I'm figuring this out as I go along, is if you're going to put in, like I did on my other ones, the little waterfall notepad thingy, you have to leave one flap open for that. And if you're going to do something like the vellum flip like I did here, you have to leave one flap open for that. So I think I'll do that. But I'm going to start off on the middle part here. And so what you're doing on this middle part here, because you want to have a pocket in the middle, is you're just going to glue these edges together, the two sides and that back edge. So I'm going to grab my art glitter glue. I like to use this stuff because it grabs and dries pretty quickly. So I'm going to put it, just make sure you don't put it on the open side. You're going to put it down the two shorter sides as close to the edge as possible. Just make sure you get enough. I think I might have a little clog in my glue. You're going to put it along that folded edge. And the other short edge. Okay. And then you're going to take this side, make sure again that your pieces, if they're directional, are going the right direction. And you're going to glue these together like this. You have a few seconds to kind of get that lined up just right, because that art glitter, depending on what kind of glue you use. I'm using the art glitter glue, and it gives you just a few seconds of maneuvering time. I just want to hold that down for a few seconds while it gets good and dry. And sometimes if your paper isn't exactly 12 by 12, you might come up with a little edge like that. You can trim that off later, no problem. Okay, so we have that. It's not wanting to stick there. I think I might put just a tiny, oh, maybe it's okay. Sometimes you have to go back in and put a little bit more glue in there. Seems to be sticking pretty well. Okay, so there you have that middle pocket. And then what I'm gonna do here is I think I'll leave this flap open, and I'll put one of those little waterfall notepads here. I'm gonna close these edges up on this side to make a pocket. Okay. And I think I'll close this one up on this side for a pocket and leave this opened for one of those little vellum flaps that I made on the other ones. nice and glued down. So I'll make one of those little waterfall pockets here, pads, foot pads here in a second to put right there. And for the vellum flip, I have a piece already cut over here. Let me grab that. Cut to size. Oops, that's 2 pieces. And I'm just going to lay that in there like that. Kind of fold this over so that it's a little bit away from the crease, so when you glue it, it doesn't bulk up this fold, but you also want to make sure you make it short enough that it doesn't go across that fold. So there you go. And then I'm simply going to glue this flap to this part of the vellum. So I'm going to put some glue along this edge of the vellum. And out a little on the sides. And then this edge of the flap. That way I've got glue on all the edges, but I'm not putting it out too far past so it would show on the vellum, if that makes any sense. And I'm just going to add a little bit more all in here to make sure it sticks down really good. Okay. And what I did on the other ones was kind of an afterthought, was I put some gold heat embossing image of an angel and some little star dots around, and that was real pretty. You could do that beforehand too, but by waiting, you know how much of it is actually going to be visible since you're gluing part of it behind this flap. And this will dry clear and not show after a while, this glue. Okay, so there you have it. That is it. Let me pull together a few supplies real quick and I'll show you how to make the little waterfall. I call it a waterfall, cascading notepad, whatever you want to call it. It's real simple. Okay, so for the little waterfall pad, I just took some tea dye or coffee dyed paper, but you can use any paper you have. You can plain white, you can do lined paper, whatever. But I liked the look of the torn edge at the bottom, so this is going to be my back piece, and I'm just going to tear off a little bit of it on the bottom. And that'll be my bottom layer. And then I'm going to take my next sheet and line it up at the top, because the top will all be even. And just kind of tear up about an inch, maybe a little bit more of an inch, more than an inch from the bottom for that layer. Okay. For the next one, do the same thing, just line up the top. Doesn't have to be perfect either. And go up about another 1.5 inches or so. Tear it. Okay. For the last one, I'm going to go ahead and grab my cutter here real quick and just make that edge even again. There goes my blade falling off again. I don't know why it does that, but not to worry. Okay, so for the last layer, I've got the top edge even. Line it up kind of as best you can. Go up about the same amount and tear it off. And what I did on the other one was I sewed across the top on my sewing machine. So I'm going to pause the video and go do that real quick. Okay, so I sewed across the top to hold that together. I also had forgotten to ink my edges before I sewed, so I went ahead and did that. I just really like the look of that inking. It helps there be more of a contrast. And I just really enjoy the process of inking around the edges of things. So a lot of times when you're sewing, what you want to do is back stitch over and then go forward again to kind of knot your threads in place. But on this project, I didn't do that, and the reason is because I'm going to be gluing this in place, and that's going to hold my threads in place and keep them from coming unraveling. So what I'm going to do here is try and get this placed here. Make sure this can still fold over easily so that it, you don't want to butt this right up against there, because then you're going to have like a little bulking issue. So I'm going to make sure that can still fold over easily. And then I'm going to put some Fabri-Tac on the edge, top edge of this. Let me see. I can't do this that direction. That was too cumbersome. So I'm just going to put a little Fabri-Tac along the edge, top edge. I'm going to line that up. It's not really at the top. It's kind of, there's a little gap between the top of the album and where this starts. Making sure I can still fold that over and just press that in place. And Fabri-Tac doesn't take too long to dry either. So, and you can leave, some people like the looks of the loose threads. You can leave those, you can cut them off, whatever you want. But that is it. That is the album. Quick and simple. Easy peasy, right? So I'm going to make one more, and I'll kind of speed through it just to remind you of the process. Of how to put these together. Once again, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to turn it this way so that if it's a non-directional paper, you don't have to worry about which way you turn it when you cut it. Oh, my blade. Okay, got it like that. So you have two 12x6 pieces. Grab the scoreboard or just measure and fold. Around the corners if you want. And that is all there is to making these fun little albums. And once you put these together, you have the fun of making the waterfall notepads, tags, an insert card for this part if you want, or you can put anything in there that you want. Something to go under this piece of vellum. You can give these away as gifts. You can put gift cards in them. They're just so quick and easy and fun to make. And I hope you have a fabulous day, and God bless.